Hello and welcome to Round Glass. My name is Abigail Somma, though I go by Abby, and I'm so excited and grateful that you're joining me for this meditation series called Building Calm and Connection with Your Kids. Today's practice is about something that is so close to us that we often overlook it, our own breath, and I will explain more about that in a moment. But first, I'd like to invite you to just check in with yourself and see how you're arriving to this session. So let's all take a deep breath and just notice where we're at right now. For me personally, I'm really excited to be here and to be kicking off this series. And wherever you are, whether it feels like everything is flowing super smoothly or it's all completely falling apart, it's okay and totally welcome in this space. So I'd like to begin by sharing some background on why I wanted to offer this series and why I decided to present it to you. So 7 years ago, next month, I gave birth to two wonderful and amazing and beautiful twins, a little boy and a little girl. And it felt like my world and my spiritual practice, although there were many, many, many blessings, it felt like they just kind of turned upside down and inside out. And I always say it felt like my personal resources and my energy went down to here, but yet my responsibilities went way up to here. And now it's 7 years later, and it still often feels like I'm trying to turn things right side up again, like this morning and probably every morning when we're, kind of running a little bit late for school, and then we realize we don't have food for the snack boxes, and what are we going to do? And that's just a small example, but there are many of them, probably several times a day. And so, like many parents, I have these wonderful, amazing, beautiful highs, but I also have a lot of the moments where I feel totally overwhelmed, where I feel like I'm struggling or I'm doubting myself or some decision, or I'm blaming myself for something, or whatever the case may be. And I know that I'm not the only one. I know that we're all having this experience, and we're also all in this together. That on one hand, we're all trying to sort of come home to ourselves at the same time that we're launching these beautiful and complicated beings into the world in the best and most loving way possible. And so that is why I wanted to deliver this series. And I thank you again for coming on this journey with me. So today's practice, our inaugural or our beginning practice, is a simple practice that is not so simple. And if you've ever tried meditation or you practice regularly, you'll pretty much know what I'm talking about. So we'll begin by finding a comfortable posture, position, and we'll start breathing, and we'll focus our attention on our breath. And as soon as we do this, our monkey mind will start chattering away. The thoughts will start coming in and distracting us, and we'll just notice them, and kindly and gently, as though it were a kind grandmother, we'll notice that the tension being pulled away and gently return our attention to our breath. And at first it might seem like there are just so many thoughts up there competing for our attention. Sometimes people have this image of the shaken up snow globe. And when we first sit down with our thoughts, that's what it can feel like. They're just all over the place. And then we'll just gently notice that. We'll notice those thoughts, and then we'll return our attention to our breath. And hopefully, like the settling snow globe, our mind will begin to settle into a space of calm and stillness. And if that doesn't happen right away, or it doesn't happen in this meditation, then please just be patient with yourself and give it some time. There are a number of benefits to this meditation that will make it worth your while. There's a number of benefits to all meditation, really, but specifically here in this one, we're practicing the value of building focus. That's what it is when we return our attention to the breath. We're building our focus and our concentration. And ultimately, that'll help us to build that sense of engagement with the present moment, to show up for our relationships, including with our children, with a sense of presence and emotional attunement that really helps the relationship to thrive. Also, by slowing down our breath, by just taking it all down a level and bringing more intention to our breathing, doing it with more more will and purpose, we're also bringing a sense of calm and relaxation into the body. We're activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And then I often say that from personal experience, I can say that meditation can help us to keep better track of everything that's going on in our lives, including losing our keys less often, which is really important when you are rushing out the door and you have 3 kids who need to go to school on time. So I'm going to suggest that we get started with our meditation. And if there are any questions that come up for you during this practice, please ask in the chat and I'll have the opportunity to answer after. So let's everybody settle in. I recommend you to please find a posture or a seat that is some combination of alert and relaxed. So you may wish to straighten your back, put your feet on the floor, and you might think about a posture. Some people think about this image of a majestic mountain. So we want to feel tall in our seat, or if you wish, you can also lay down. And whenever you're ready, just gently lower your gaze or close your eyes. And let's begin by taking a few full, deep breaths. Okay. Okay. Our sound for a moment. So hopefully you're still in your meditation and you're slow breathing in and then fully exhaling. Those long, slow inhales and settling into the body just a little bit more on the exhale. And just like we did at the top of the session, let's take a moment to recognize how we're arriving to this meditation. And gently breathing into whatever is present with a sense of accepting and allowing. Just breathing in and breathing out. If you like, you can breathe in to a count of 5 on the in-breath and a count of 5 on the out-breath. If thoughts come in, pull your attention away. Just kindly, gently return to the breath. When we breathe in deeply and fully, we activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which signals to our body that it's time to rest and digest. The breath is our anchor for attention during this meditation. So let's bring a special quality of attention to each breath, almost as if we were noticing each breath for the first time. How it enters and exits the nostrils, the rise and fall of the chest and abdomen. If a thought or sound or distraction comes in and pulls your attention away, just notice it and gently redirect your attention to the breath. There's no need to chase after our thoughts or to run away from them. Just noticing. Anchoring into the breath. If a thought creates a sensation or a feeling in the body, it gives us an opportunity to notice that very strong mind-body connection in action. How every thought leaves its trace on the body. Breathing in, breathing out. Fully engaged in this moment. Noticing when attention is pulled away and returning to the breath. Each time we return to the breath and to the moment, we strengthen our ability to be fully present for our own lives, for our relationships, including our children. We move closer to cultivating the inner peace that will help us navigate the challenges of parenting with more skill and to be more awake to the many blessings our children bring into our lives. So let's see if we can connect to that sense of peace on this next breath. And this one, and this one. I'd now like to read an adapted poem by author William Martin, which some of you may already be familiar with. Do not ask your children to strive for extraordinary lives. Help them instead to find the wonder and the marvel of an ordinary life. Show them the joy of tasting tomatoes, apples, and pears. Show them how to cry when pets and people die. Show them the infinite pleasure in the touch of a hand. And make the ordinary come alive for them. The extraordinary will take care of itself. And for the next few minutes, let's place just the right amount of gentle effort on following the breath, seeing if we can greet each one with a sense of peace and ease. And as we close, let's take a few last full cycles of deep breath. And whenever you're ready, bring your attention back to our shared space. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that was a positive experience for you. And if not, please don't be discouraged. Meditation is called a practice precisely because it's something that does become easier and more comfortable over time and with practice, and sometimes a lot of practice. But for the rest of this series, this is the practice that we'll be using, anchoring into the breath. We'll use it at the beginning and at the end of each meditation, and we will build all of our other practices on this baseline practice, so to speak. And if there are any questions, I would be so happy to answer them now in the chat. So please feel free. And if not, I can recap some of the key points from this session. Yeah, so let me take some of these questions. Do you meditate with your children, and how? That's a really good question. I try to introduce ideas to them. There are two key practices that I do personally with my children. With one of my children, I really teach him about, I call it blowing out a cloud. I ask him to blow out a cloud when he's feeling upset or anxious. Breathe in a cloud, blow out a cloud. And then we do another practice related to loving kindness, which is about sending love to people that we're struggling with, or that are far away, or that we miss, or whatever the case may be. So we'll be doing a loving kindness practice later in the series, but that's a practice at a very basic level that I do with them, and we call it sending love. And when you're having a frantic mom day, very often, yes, how do you bring calm into your chaos? I have recently, sometimes I don't, to be honest. I mean, because I'm not perfect, and sometimes I feel like sometimes and sometimes I do, and sometimes I get it right. And one thing that I've been doing lately to bring calm into my chaos, at least in terms of meditation, is counting my breath. It's something called a box breath. So breathing in for a count of 5, holding for a count of 5, breathing out for a count of 5, and then again holding for a count of 5. And I feel like this also like if I'm triggered, for example, this gives me something for my mind to do, to take, it slows me down, but it gives my mind something to do. And someone says, I love the idea of blowing out a cloud. That's amazing. And it works. With one of my kids, honestly, finds it a little bit annoying, but one of them really likes it and it works. So let me take this time to recap some of our key points from this session. Thank you again for the questions. So happy to answer them. So firstly, this kind of meditation that I referred to as our sort of baseline meditation of anchoring our attention to our breath, it helps us to build our mindful muscle. It helps us to build focus and concentration and presence, so that we feel more present for our lives, and that we show up in our relationships with more openness and attunement. You can also practice it with listening to the kids as well. We notice our attention, or reading to the kids. Attention is always getting pulled, and really making the effort to come back to the moment. It's not to the breath in that case, but to come back to the word, to come back to the text in the book. But that being said, the breath is also really important. And as I said, I use it personally to help myself to calm down and to bring that sense of regulation into the body, and also to give the mind a task, because the mind, it often needs something to do. It likes to ruminate, it likes to worry. So just those long breaths, they relax the body, and counting them for a count of 5, holding 5, can be really powerful. So, the book, James Nestor, Breath by James Nestor, he recommends these 5 counts as what he calls peak breathing for our well-being. And so I would invite you over the next days and the next weeks, if you are coming back to this session, to just try to bring more intentional breathing into your life in whatever way you can, whether that is through sitting in meditation, or walking to the grocery store, or driving in the car, just noticing how that intentional breathing impacts the body. And if it is in meditation, you can use it as a practice for focusing the attention as well. So it's our life force, and yet it's a tool that is often underused in some ways. And thirdly and finally, to recap our session, I just want to call our attention to the poem I read again in the meditation by author William Martin, which is really just, again, it's about being present for life in this sort of renewed way, where if we want our children to notice the joys in something as simple as tasting a piece of fruit or a tomato, although I said my kids would never find any joy in tasting a tomato, but in the pleasures of holding a hand, all these small joys and little gifts that are in our midst almost every day. That's something we can role model for them. When we find the joys in the small little joys in life, it's something that we can see it reflected in them. They start to watch us appreciate a sunset, or we can smile at their silliness and really be present for their thoughtful questions, and so forth. So I'd like to thank you again so much for joining me. And remember that you can meditate with Round Glass live every single day at round.glass or on our app. And I will be back next week for my next session. So have a wonderful day. And please remember that wherever you are on your journey is where you're supposed to be.